Hey everyone, it's Leslie from Hummingbird Lane Fabrics, and I am so happy you are here today to join me on the VIP party for the National Sew a Jelly Roll today. Today we are going to be making a Let's Dance quilt using the free pattern from Moda Fabrics and Zen Chic. This is going to be a super fun one to make. I'm really excited about it. So to get started, we actually need to get our background fabric, and we are going to cut the squares to make the triangles in the pattern, which are the white parts that you see. Obviously you're probably going to be using a different solid color for your particular quilt, but that's what we're going to start with today. So let's get started. All right, so the first step in this process is we need to take our background fabric and we're going to lay it out on our cutting mat, and we need to square up the edge of the fabric. So we want this edge to be nice and straight. So what we're going to need is we're going to need two rulers. We're going to put one ruler here at the end on the edge, and we're going to take another ruler, we're going to put it down here. And we want these to be nice and nestled up close to each other, because we're going to take this one at the bottom and we're going to line up the line on the bottom edge of the fabric so that it's nice and straight here and it goes with the line here. Now when we do that, it's because we've got these nestled together, it's moving this one as well, so that this one is going to be a nice straight line in accordance with the edge of the fabric, with the bottom part. So now we're going to take this one away and we're going to grab our rotary cutter, and we are just going to go straight on down like that, and we're going to take, sometimes it doesn't cut all the way through. There we go. We're going to take this part and we're just going to toss it away. We don't need that anymore. All right, next we need to cut so what we need for our background fabric is we're going to need 6.5 inch squares. And to get that, we first have to cut 6.5 inch wide strips. So you're going to need most likely two rulers, because this one is only 6 inches and we need 6.5. So I'm going to grab a second ruler here. I'm going to put them both on the fabric, and then I'm going to, this one's nice and neat because it has 3.5 inch. So I've got this nice little 1/2 inch edge already on here. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to nestle them up nice and close to each other, and then I'm going to put the 6.5 inch mark, which is this mark here, on the edge of my fabric so that it's nice and straight along that line there. And I'm going to put my hand firmly down on this one, take my rotary cutter, and I'm going to go straight on down like that. Okay, so now I have a 6.5 inch wide strip, just like that. Okay, all right, so after that, we now need to get the 6.5 inch squares out of these strips. So I'm going to switch out to my actual background fabric for this quilt, and I'm going to use one of my strips. So you want to lay the strip down just as it is. You don't want to unfold it or do anything like that. We're going to leave it just like this. So you need 12 of these 6.5 inch wide strips to get 72 6.5 inch squares. Okay, and the first thing we want to do is we want to cut off our selvage edge. So using that same principle that we just used to cut the strips, we're going to grab our two rulers and we're going to place them on the fabric like this. We're going to take this bottom one and line it up with the bottom edge of the fabric. Once it's nice and straight, I'm going to take that ruler away, and I'm going to use my rotary cutter, and I'm just going to cut straight on down like that to get rid of the selvage edge. Okay, all right, so now that I have my 6.5 inch wide strip here, I now need to make squares out of this. And the great thing about not unfolding it like this is when you cut the squares, you're going to get 6.5 inch squares out of each strip. So that's the nice thing, is you're basically cutting your time in half by leaving the strips folded like that and not unfolding them. So now you're going to take your 6.5 inch square ruler and you're going to lay it on top and just make sure all the edges match up nice and straight. And then you're just going to take your rotary cutter, cut on down, and there you go, you have your first two. Okay, and then you're just going to go and do the next one, lay that nice and flat. Make sure your edges are good, and then you're just gonna cut on down. Now we have 4. Okay, we're just gonna move this over just a little bit, and same thing, using that same square 6.5 inch square, and we're just going to cut on down. And then this piece, you can hold on to it, save it for later, use it on something else, or whatever you want to use it for. Okay. All right, now that we have our squares, so what you're going to go through is you're going to go through all of your strips and you're going to cut 72 of these squares. Once you have all 72 squares, I'm going to go ahead and show you the next step in the process. You're going to have all your squares with the right side facing down, so the design side facing down, and you're going to want to draw your diagonal lines, which we will use later for sewing in the third step. So take your square and put it face down, and there's two different ways you can do this. Probably the easiest way is you're going to just take your square, you're going to take a ruler, you're going to match up the ruler with the two corners diagonally across the square, just like that. You're just going to take a pen, just an average old pen, doesn't have to be anything special, and you're going to go straight down that way and just draw a line straight down diagonally from corner to corner. And then when you go to sew it later, you're going to use your 1/4 inch foot, and you put the foot on this line and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch out either way from that, which we'll get into later. The other option is I have this nifty tool that I had bought years ago that is specifically for half square triangles. It's by OmniGrid, and you can buy it at Hobby Lobby or Joann's. I unfortunately don't carry them in my store, but you can use this as well, and these are really great tools to have. It has this line down the middle, and you just basically line up that line with your corners so that it's, you know, in each of the corners, and you're going to take a pen and you're just going to draw down each side. I'm going to flip it over to draw the other side and go like this. Okay, draw down the other side. The great thing about this tool is now you already have your sew lines. So let's say you didn't have a 1/4 inch foot, or you know, you want to make sure that you sew straight as possible. This gives you already the 1/4 inch line. So basically you would just sew straight down your pen markings, and now you have your lines for that. Okay, so you want to go through all of your strips, you want to cut your 6.5 inch squares, and then you want to draw your diagonal lines using whichever method you prefer. I also have in my shop this one, which is an add a 1/4, and it's basically kind of the same principle as this, where, I don't know if you can see this line, there's a bit of a little buffer here. This is mostly used for foundation piecing, oops, excuse me, but you can use it to draw these lines as well. And it's the same principle where you can kind of see the line on this, and you're going to line it up with corner to corner, and then you'll draw your edge on the outside. So these I do have in my shop to use for this as well. All right, so get your squares cut and draw these lines. All right, so now that you know what to do with your background fabric, let's get all those squares cut and ready to go, and then I will see you in the next video for the next step.